Hey there, this is Malorian, and this is going to be the Sambucisode. Now, what this is all about is actually this is supposed to be done already. I was planning this for New Year's because this was actually the first year ever that I wasn't going to be home with my family. So, for those who don't know, one of my normal traditions for New Year's is that Malorian goes mono on mono with one of these, and so since I couldn't do that with the friends, I was just going to do it here with you guys, my other friends, my internet friends. It was going to be the Sambucisode, just me talking about stuff. If you guys ever watch the Wargaming for Fun, where they have the listen while you paint or something like that, that's really what this is supposed to be. So if you're tuning in for tactical insight or something like that, that's, there'll be a few things in there. We'll be talking about some stuff, but this is going to be more kind of a mixture of my hobby update and just some other things a bit on my mind and stuff like that. So without further ado, you can't have a Sambucisode without Sambuca. The whole reason why the Sambucisode didn't happen is the whole idea that actually one of my good friends said, "Hey, Malorian, do you want to not be a loser or come over and play some board games?" And I said, "That's great." So that's what I did New Year's. So pretty cool. It wasn't, all alone in Fort McMurray and type thing. But yeah, so we'll go and have this now. So the first thing I want to talk about is that when you're first starting this video, you probably saw the intro video, which is a little bit different. And that really comes down to just a random message out of the blue, which I had, "Hey, Malorian, I'm an artist and I can go and I think tidy up your image and make it a little bit better. Let me know what you think." And then before I can even reply, there's another image saying, "All right, I'm done. Here you go." So with that, where it came from is and I'm not sure how to say the name. It's either Rothand Studio or Rothand Studio, but that I'm going to link down here below. And yeah, I hope you guys see that it just really pops. It was a really good improvement to it. And I had to kind of wonder, how much should I change my intro to try and put that back in? Should I just go with something good, kind of like what Once Bitten has? But no. I just made it somewhat the same, slightly different, and yeah, I like it a lot. So thank you very much for doing that for me, and for all you other guys. I don't know what little art stuff you have going on, like whether you have a project you want for a gift or for your own channel. I go check that stuff out because he does a good job. Something else that's supposed to be going on here around the New Year's time is I was supposed to actually do a little Google Hangout with Chris, or Nick, sorry, from Long Island Gaming. And unfortunately, this is something where Google and YouTube just really didn't work because we had started arranging it before, and then when it came to it, there was no answer from him. So I thought, well, okay, he must have been busy. It's Christmas. He has other things to do. No big deal. Now, when I went back to make sure I had the right links for this Rothand Studio and all this stuff, I noticed that I had all these other emails I wasn't getting notifications for. So at the same time, he had been emailing me and thought that I was busy and, whatever. But we're going to still plan something, so that should be a lot of fun. With this whole thing here with the Google Hangouts, man, I keep on saying I want to keep on getting back into this and doing more of them, but it's so hard to find the time. Again, for those who don't know, I'm only home with my family and not up here in the frigid north for, about 2 days a week, so it's hard to fit in, family time and whatever events and housework and then hobby stuff on the side. And then, if I want to do a Google Hangout, that's also even extra hobby. So I'm trying to do these best I can. Really wish I could do them here, but the reason why this isn't live right now is the fact where I have crappy internet. So there you go. Either way, it should be a lot of fun. One of the things that I've been actually kind of swirling in my head, that's something that'd be a lot of fun, is doing almost like a podcast thing, either would it be on video, like the Google Hangout type thing, or whether we actually make it an actual podcast. I always thought that, the personalities with my kind of, I can get a little twisted sometimes with either mixing me with Reef, from Mr. Reef stuff there, or also maybe from with Anthony from the Sustainable Center. I almost feel like we could get something going there, but time is tough, and I mean, especially if I want to do something with Reef there, he's on the other side of the world, and so they have timing issues and all this stuff. But it's one of those things where it'll be really good if we could get a lot more interaction between all the different channels. For a while there, it actually was going really great, and I mean, especially I looked like I got kind of it started, and then Anthony was doing really great, talking to a lot of people. Once Bitten was, and even others as well. But it's kind of died off a little bit here now. So maybe here in the new year, we can try and push that and get it going again. And with that, too, for those who haven't seen, I'm really hoping that we'll have a lot of fun with this whole around the world in 12 games or battles or months. I always seem to change what the title is. But just that one where hopefully we can get a lot more people coming up and making battle reports and sharing them and just growing the community. I know watching some of the other ones, some people are kind of wondering, like, man, maybe we're at the max of what we have for a community here, but I think there's still a lot of room for us to grow. It's actually kind of crazy where I look at some of these things where, for us, if we have a channel that has 5,000 subscribers, that's like, yeah, that's our elite channel. But man, if you go look at something else where one of the guys are doing things for, video games or something like that, whoa, they have hundreds of thousands of subscribers. So we're kind of a small group here, but you know what? That's might be maybe even better because then all of a sudden we kind of know each other better and we can have a lot more fun. So we'll see what that stuff we can actually do. One of the things I've actually noticed with doing these here is in the past I tried doing this while painting, but I found, much like what Once Bitten said, that you can't really get that much done because you can't really concentrate on the two things. It's actually even a challenge to do the drinking because every time I drink, guess what? You're rewarded with silence. But yeah, it'll be all right. You guys will understand, I'm sure. So one of the things I want to talk about is I actually have a guest here. Something you guys have been asking for a long time, and I thought it was crazy because I didn't think it was that amazing, but all I got was comments like, oh, I want more of this. Show me more of this. This is so great. And what we're talking about here is this trophy I got and the whole chimera that's on top. So people wanted better pictures. Here, I better get out of the picture so it's not focusing on me. But I have no idea where it came from. It's a good size there, as you can see, but it's all just rubber. Like, I can go and flex this and stuff like that. So I don't really know if somebody makes this or, well, obviously somebody makes it, but whether it came from, like, a kid's store or what, right? I mean, it's not pewter or anything like this, so I wouldn't expect that it came from some, online miniature company or something like that. But I'm just amazed at the amount of attention this Hydra thing rather got. It's an alternate model, but now that we have actually the new Hydra and Charybdis and stuff, I don't think you'd ever want to go with this. It's even too wide, right? Like, you couldn't fit that on a regular base. So I don't know why people wanted more of it, and here it is. And unfortunately, I can't tell you any more about it. The thing that I really would expect more people to be more excited about is actually this guy here. Unfortunately, his tail's broken right now, but this is the Archangel from the Legion of Everblight from the Hordes and War Machine, and this is one freaking awesome dragon. Unfortunately, its rules aren't that great, but yeah, I mean, the only reason why I don't have this converted for Warhammer Fantasy is because orcs can't take a dragon. That's pretty much it. I mean, all you need to do, like, it's a perfect sitting spot here where you just cut off some spikes, put on like a little saddle thing, and bam, your guy goes on. In fact, you could probably just grab the rider from the Wyvern, put it right on here, and that'd be freaking awesome, right? And actually, the base, the bottom is pretty small, so you can put them on a dragon base. And yeah, I'm just amazed that people aren't looking at more things like this as opposed to this, where, I don't know, people just like the look of it. But either way, here this one is. I guess while we're talking about that, I should do a little bit of hobby update. For painting, I really haven't been getting done as much as I wanted, but I am getting more back into it. I finished up painting up this BSB that I got from a viewer, and it's just a goblin. Well, it's actually a hobgoblin BSB from the Chaos Dwarves, but he is now completely done and finished, and he'll be seeing some duty. On the one side, of course, I have it talking about the stabby. Of course, you can't really see, and it's not going to focus. And then on the other side, I have a very poorly hand-drawn yelling orc. But yeah, I mean, it's really cool that somebody would send me this stuff. It's one of these things where, like some people always kind of blow it out of proportion. I think some of my friends actually more kind of picking on me, like, "Oh, there's Malorian, the celebrity." I'm not a celebrity. I'm just some guy that puts things up on the internet and people watch them. And the fact that somebody would do that and say, like, "Hey, I gotta send this guy a model," like that is just, it makes me feel great. And I mean, especially where it's a thing like this where it's so unique. And I bet you if I went out there, I just could not find this model. This is something that's old, out of print, and very, very cool to have. And I can't wait to use them in my games. One of the next thing you guys will be happy to see that I'm going to be working on is I have the old Boar Boys here. Oh, they're so tiny and silly. But I have some of them. And the nice thing about them, too, is that they are so cheap for the points. When I do it with the Savages, they come out to just being 100 points for the 5 Savage Boar Boys. These guys here, too, depending on what upgrades you give them, is just 100 points as well. So it really is a cool little throwaway unit. And it's one of those things that it's also kind of neat because nobody else takes them. So, you could either pay 65 points for Spider Riders or something like that, or 100 points more, and you actually got Cav, right? Something that's going to hit hard, and they're not having that bad of an armor save either, right? These guys here with the shield upgrade have a 3+ save. It's not a 2+, it's not a 1+, but, it's still pretty damn good. And you still have the toughness in there, and these guys hit hard as well, right? The boar gets strength 5. They, even if you don't make them biggins, will be getting strength 5. So they have a lot of punch when they go in there. The other thing I've been working on is these other Savages. And these are just I have a feeling I showed these already, but these are just the old Savages. They're all done now. I did a squad of them. So, they're pretty simple. They're not really dynamic and crazy like the new Savages, but they're nice. And they're nice to have something that's different, especially when I want to have the difference between this is the biggins and these are the regular guys. For the longest time, I was trying to put together a biggin unit, and it was taking forever because what I was doing is that whenever you buy an orc boss, they have a different model or body that's actually larger to be the unit champ because they're supposed to be bigger and stronger. And so I was slowly collecting a whole unit of these unit champs to say, like, they're my biggins, to actually be what you see is what you get. But of course, now with this book, it seems to be a little bit more obvious to be doing it with Savages. The new Savages are amazing. And, these guys here at 9 points each are a pretty good buy to take, right? Whether I want to take a unit of 10 of them, right? Right there, we said these guys are pretty good for 100 points. 10 Savage Orcs with extra hand weapon, 90 points. Sure, yeah, go on a flank, go kill some things, whatever, right? That's in throwaway territory. So, very cool, and they throw out a lot of attacks, and they're immune to psych. Sure, they might be frenzy baited, but whatever. They're 90 points, right? They're pretty cool. Love that Sambuca. And no, they're not a sponsor or anything like that. Also, talking about hobby, a big thing I've been painting that I really have to do more of is painting more of my War Machine stuff. It's more that, well, of course, when you start painting something, it's good to have something that's quickly rewarding you. So, I mean, if you're painting orcs and goblins, sure, you could paint like a spider rider or something, but it takes a long time and it's not many points. Or you can paint a troll and it's super easy and it's a lot of points. And that really is how it is for my War Machine collection right now, where I painted up all the big monsters. It was like all black or all red, then black on the scales and whatever, done. And so unfortunately, that type of build isn't really the most competitive thing. So I'm really now just finishing off painting an actual really competitive army. And it's a little bit tough because it's infantry, having to chew through it. But I only got a couple weeks until this tournament. This tournament here will be in January 25 and 26, I believe. They're doing it more like a convention. So the way this will work is one day is going to be War Machine, the next day is going to be the Fantasy. My sheets for them are over there, but we're going to go over that now. For the War Machine, it's going to be 35-point hardcore. I'm going to be going with Epic Cane and shooting guys up, so that should be fairly good. Then I'm actually going to be running a overnight War Machine tournament as well, and then the following day is going to be the Fantasy. Now, I'm still not sure how competitive I'm going to go at this, but let me just grab the rules, which I should have had here being prepared, but this is it. I'm not professional. I don't have this stuff ready. So that didn't take too long. That wasn't too bad, right? I even have the scenarios, and the scenarios is very interesting because normally they don't release scenarios with a mission, right? They might say that they're all going to be custom or they're all going to come from the main rulebook, but it is very rare where they just say like these are scenarios, these are all of them. And it's not even a thing where like these are like a series of 10 and you'll be playing 4. No, game 1 you'll be doing this. So let's kind of go through this, and then we can kind of talk about why I'm having some troubles picking my army, but we'll have to figure it out. You have to be fully painted. You get extra points for your presentation, sportsmanship, stuff like that. The actual armies, if we're going to fantasy here, there are a few little comp things. It's not a real big extensive list like, oh, I don't know, whatever. The main thing here is that, first of all, it's going to be 4 games with 1,600 points. With that, it's the normal things where they say you can't use the battle scrolls. So already we have a tournament with a ruling on that, although you can take the Chaos Dwarves. But the main things here that are the main things to look at is that you can't have any special or named characters. You can't have any lords, and that's huge because 1,600 points is already really shrinking the army and limiting what you can take. And there's a lot of armies out there that are really dependent on leadership. So if you say no lords, it's a big deal. It's nice to know that there'll be no demon princes, no vampire lords, stuff like that. But it's also a thing where if you play Skaven or orcs and goblins, you have to know that your leadership is going to be a little bit worse than usual. So with that in mind, I actually think I'm going to be seeing no Skaven whatsoever. But other stuff you're going to see here is that you cannot spend more than 25% of your total on a single unit or character. All the BSBs can take all the equipment. This is basically just talking about stuff like the Wood Elves, where with the old books you couldn't take a shield. So it's a little minor thing they're doing there. And then also no more than 12 power dice per magic phase. So no shooting out a purple sun, getting all your dice back and doing it again, right? Unless that was 6 dice and you got 6 back. Okay, 12. So otherwise, that's really all it is there for the comp. Like, that's it. Go make your list, have fun. So with that, like I said, you really have to find something that doesn't depend on the high leadership. Really, if it's something where you need like a level 4 or something like that, again, you probably don't want to really depend on magic or anything like this. And some of the first thing that came to mind when I read this, because this came out first, is maybe you want to go with something like Wood Elves, because all of a sudden if there's going to be no lords and it's going to be these smaller units, I can run around and pew, 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 and just shoot things up. Maybe it's time for me to bring out the Wood Elves again. However, then I also thought like, wow, another army that's going to do very well here, and I can bet you, I absolutely bet you, this is what Matt Reason's going to do, is Vampire Counts with a lot of Ethereal is going to do very well. First of all, because that's probably the army he's going to take, and he's been taking more than usual Ethereal in his battle report. So that's something where you just got to know that, first of all, for yourself, like I could pull out my Vampire Counts, which I haven't done in a long time, and really pull this out on other people because I don't expect to see a lot of demons or stuff like that, or magic weapons. And but at the same time, you have to go counter meta and know that, man, I have to either have magic missiles or something to take them down from afar, or I have to make sure I have characters that have a magical weapon. Even if it's like a little 5-point crappy thing, whatever. At least I can harm these guys and do something back. One of the things I was thinking of when I was planning for this was actually going with dwarves and taking their Anvil of Doom, but I can't take Lord, so much for that. Now, the scenarios for this. First of all, they added something else here where if a unit is ever below a quarter of its starting strength, it gives up half its victory points. So that's not too bad. I mean, in some of the tournaments, you see that when it gives up half, it gives up half. So this one's even bringing it down more. So if you get down to 25%, that's pretty good. All these things here, all the other games we're going to talk about, are going to have these two extra objectives. One, if you ever break your opponent's fortitude, you're going to gain an additional 250 victory points. So it's not game breaking or anything like that. It's not like you win the game automatically, but it's something that you definitely have to keep in mind, because especially when it's a small game and stuff like that, 250 is actually a lot of points, especially when we get to the win, draw, major wins breakdown. The next thing here, too, is that you can go and actually capture a piece of terrain. Any unit that has fortitude, including your general and BSB, can go around and capture terrain, and each of these here will give an additional 100 victory points. And man, that could really add up to a lot. Because really, if you think about it, sure, yeah, I could break your fortitude, but if I have a couple of units of fast cav with a banner, bing, 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 I got an extra 400 points. You know, like that's a big deal. All right, scenario 1 is going to be regular battle line. Just set up 12 inches and go fight. You get a major win if you win by 1,000 or more. To get a minor win has to be more than 300 points. And so really anything that's under 300 is a tie. And the big thing there is like, wow, this is already a smaller size. And so already with 100 points needed for the difference, you'll probably be seeing some ties. But now being within 300, that's a pretty big deal. And this is what I was saying before, that capturing the terrain and going for the breaking the fortitude or making sure you're not going to lose your own fortitude, that's fairly important. Next one here, Watchtower. So guaranteed we're going to be playing Watchtower. However, it's a little bit different. In this one here, whoever controls it is going to get 800 victory points. So it's not the auto win. One thing that's not very clear here is whether you're still rolling for when the game ends or whether it'll still be 6 turns. I'm guessing you're going to be rolling, but 800 victory points is quite a bit. However, they also change it where now to get a major win, you have to get 1,200. So instead of just needing 1,000, it's 1,200 now. So, you know, it's one of these things where, you know, you could take a unit and hide it in there, but if they go through now and destroy the rest of your army, break your fortitude, capture the other terrain, you know, they're going to win, even though you have the Watchtower. So it's probably going to be one of these things where you want to be capturing the Watchtower with the smallest possible unit. It's not going to take 100 biggins, throw them in there, and say, ha, this is mine, I'm going to win. Because they're just going to go and capture all the other stuff and beat me anyway. Next one here is meeting engagement. And it's just meeting engagement. And so for this here, it's just like the first one, 1,300. For the massacre and draw and all that stuff. And the big thing to keep in mind here, again, is that because you know it's going to be meeting engagement, you know some things will be held off the board, so it makes it a little bit more risky for going gun line or something like that, because, oh, well, you know, your cannon rolled a 1. Your cannon's off the board. I guess it's not shooting the first turn guaranteed. So something there to keep in mind. The last one there then is Dawn Attack. And same thing here, 1,300 for the breakdown. But now for this too, you can't really take an army that depends on leadership or synergy between itself, because you could be totally broken up. So you know that with this, you know, all of a sudden vampire counts, this could actually be pretty bad for them. Tomb Kings, not good. Again, bad for Skaven. Bad for orcs and goblins unless you really build for it. So this is something that's going to be interesting to know. So you know there's going to be Battle Line, Watchtower, Meeting Engagement, and Dawn Attack. And so given this, I still... Whoa, that went right through. I still don't know what army I should take for this. So I'm going to go through some ideas, but really if you guys have any... things that you would want to see, put them down below. But one of the things that's with this is, of course, you always have to make that initial decision. Am I going to be going in for fun, or am I going in there to kick butt? And unfortunately, it always seems that these Edmonton ones here are a little bit more competitive. And the reason for that is that whenever the Calgary guys come here, they bring their best. And it's like I said, I bet you Matt Reason's going to be there with tons of ethereal everywhere and really going there for like trying to get the massacre wins and tear your throat out. And meanwhile, when they're back home, it seems like then they pull out the fun list. So if I pull out a fun list here, those are like, haha, we took all of Edmonton's trophies. So I kind of want to do something that's a little bit better. So with that, one of the options could be Wood Elves. Because looking at this, Wood Elves are going to work fine for everything except for the Watchtower. And the reason why it's bad there is, of course, I can't do the Watchtower. However, if I was to just say and do what I said I was going to do, stay outside, shoot things down, capture terrain and stuff like that, I can win that way. Or at least get a draw here and win the other ones. The problem being is that the Wood Elves I own don't have a lot of banners painted for the actual like fast elements. So I could make, with the models I have, a very fast Glade Rider army that's going to run around, shoot you up, capture objectives, and do very well, but it's not painted. I have the models, but only 15 out of the like 40 I need for the list are actually painted. So they're basically out. My High Elves, I could do High Elves, but there's going to be no Lord, so I can't get that Super Dragon in there or anything like that. I could still have one Phoenix in there and stuff like that, but it's really not going to be doing what it's supposed to be doing. And if I just face a couple of cannons, the thing is, like, when I have like 5 monsters, it's like you can't stop me. When I have like 2 monsters, a couple of cannons could just ruin my day right away. So I think that one's out as well. I could do not Bretonians because they're not painted. I have my Lizardmen, and I could do Lizardmen. And here's something that's interesting about them. I really like the new book, but I didn't take the Lizardmen because they can't deal with the Demon Prince. They just, unless you get really lucky with a souped up old blood, or if you're just going to try and banish them off or something like that, they really don't have a good answer for dealing with the Demon Prince. I was actually talking with somebody else, and he was talking about the idea where what he always tries to do is trap the Demon Prince in a combat and then counter with an Ancient Stegodon with the sharpened horns, because then you can get through the armor. If he doesn't ward it, each one's doing D3 wounds, so okay, you might pull off something there. But otherwise, it's pretty tough. This one here, there's going to be no Demon Princes for sure. So all of a sudden, I'm thinking, I can take a lot of good Saurus. I can put in, I don't need Lords. I've already been playing Lizardmen with just going with a couple of Skink Chiefs, or Shaman rather, whatever they call them. And that would work out really well. And for capturing objectives, I have Skinks with banners. They can go around, do their thing there. And that's really a real possibility. However, I don't have a lot of Skink banners painted up, but I could do that. It's not that far. I mean, painting 3 Skink banners, not that hard. The other idea here could be possibly my vampires. I have a lot of ethereal that is painted up, so I could do that whole idea. But like I said, I think people, the highly competitive ones that I'm really planning to beat in the end, will be ready for the whole Wood Elf thing, not Wood Elf, ethereal thing, and they're going to have magical weapons. So although I might go into the game and get like massacre win as I beat some chumps, then when it gets to the top tables, they'll be prepared for it, and it's not going to work. And then really, I could go regular vampire counts, but you're not going to have a Blender Lord or anything in there, so I really don't think it's going to work out that way. So, of course, then there's always my dwarves. They could do well, although they're slow, so taking terrain would be tough unless we're looking at miners. And as well, I mean, really, running them without a Lord, I don't know. I really do. Maybe I use it as a crutch, but I really like that Anvil of Doom. And, man, running without it, I don't know. Then there's Orcs and Goblins. And everybody loves Orcs and Goblins. I was even thinking of the Trolls. I could be running Throg and the Trolls. That would just be bad because I'm going to be losing those 250 points all the time with the Fortitude. They don't do okay in some of the missions, but of course, once you get to Dawn Attack, I could get really screwed over with leadership. So I don't think that's going to work. So then there's Orcs and Goblins where I can do tons of different stuff with, right? With 600 points, I could be doing lots of different things. So I might be doing that. I'm not sure. But like I said, like I mean, really, this whole rant didn't come to anything. But I'd love to hear what you guys think. Both, what do you want to see that you think would be competitive, and what do you want to see just because I want to see it? You know, maybe you know what, bring out the vampire counts. I haven't seen those guys in a long time. Bring them out. So let me know what you guys think. And man, it's coming up. So if it is going to be something where I need to paint, I need to get that done. Then in February, I'm going to be running my Love Machine. It's a War Machine tournament. And I mean, you guys won't see any battle reports from that or anything like that, but that's what's happening there. I think in February there's also a steamroller I might be going to as well, so that could be fun. And then after that in March, that's my tournament. That is Battle of the Beasts. That's the one where you can take a Lord mounted on any monster from any book, just pay the points, and also it's at 3,000 points, so it's Grand Army and all these things. So should be a lot of fun. The last couple of years been getting pretty big, so hopefully it'll get even bigger. I'd always love, you know how I go down to the Brawler Bash? I'd always love to have some of the other guys come here, but to be honest, it's not at that level yet. You know, whereas Brawler Bash is at that tipping point where like we could break the 100 point, we could break the 100 people. Mine isn't like that, right? I'm still trying to get up to 30. So it's not the big grand event, but for me, it's my big tournament. So there you have it. But that should be a lot of fun. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where I have an orc mounted on a stone horn that's actually like ready to go and fight with that. But ever since it's got more serious than 12 people, I can't play, right? I have to kind of more run it. I bring in a ringer. So unfortunately, no tournaments there. But, you know, there's always going to be stuff coming in. And it's really going to be a really big tournament year. Last year was also a very big tournament year, my biggest tournament year. And by that I mean I went to the most tournaments, and that's with a lot of travel as well, because I really started breaking into going out to Calgary, playing a lot of tournaments there. And also that's the first year I went to Brawler Bash. And I do plan to go back in this year as long as it doesn't, you know, mess up with some like family thing or something like that. But something that came with that is also the whole idea like, wow, it's starting to cost some money, right? Because when you go to a minimum of one tournament per month, it's like, wow, you know, it's like ding, 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 all these little things. So I'm going to be a little bit more careful this year just to kind of like keep track of that. But part of that too is I've noticed that for this year, not this year so much, the last few months, I've just been a lot more reserved with the stuff I'm actually buying. In the past, as soon as we get to a new month, I'd be like, first thing, the first week, I'm going down to a hobby store and I'm spending $150 on something, and there you go, it's my new stuff. I'm going to build it and off we go. And all of a sudden, I don't know if it's really the thing where I'm starting to look more at as a financial side, or if it's just because I already have so much stuff. But it's really a thing where it's like I don't want to get anything. Already from Christmas, I still have like $125 credit, and I can't think of anything I'd want to buy. At this point here, I don't really feel like this inspiration to start a new army. There's no units for the armies I play that I really feel I want to get. So it's one of these things where it almost has me worried. And before I get into this rant, I want to have more Sambuca. Because I'm almost worried that I'm kind of aging as a gamer and getting to that later stage where I'm not doing as much. First of all, with that, man, I am sorry. I mean, I'm sure you guys don't care. I get out about one fantasy battle report per week on average. I really wish it could be more. If I could, I'd be getting, 2, 3 out there every week. But the way that it is going back and forth, and how up here there's not much of a fantasy background, I really do my best to, first of all, get a game because I enjoy it, but also to try and get one out for you guys. But man, the day that I move back to Edmonton and get a job there, or in Calgary, we are going to have a party, because all of a sudden then I'm going to be able to have games all the time, especially if it's in Calgary. Calgary has a very strong fantasy base there, people that want to game all the time. But, anyway, I'm getting past my part here. The real thing I want to be talking about is the whole idea where this last year I actually got out of a hobby. And it's one of these things where I said, we're going forward, it's not worth ever selling your models. Keep it on you, because it's more expensive to sell and rebuy than just to hold on to it, buy the new books, whatever. But this last year I got out of 40K. And so that was really a big turning point there. And really what it came down to is the whole idea where and me and Borgnine argue about this all the time, me and my brother, where it seems to me like 40K is going to jump the shark. I really used to love 40K. I really did. It's what got me into the game. And, a group of us would be playing at least two games a week, at least, and just having tons of fun. But all of a sudden, they started adding more and more and more, and it's just got to the point where it's silly, where all of a sudden you need to be watching. It's like, okay, well, now you have to be worrying about the Forge World, because there's a lot of stuff that's Forge World approved. Oh, now there's these flyers? Oh, okay, I guess you got to deal with these flyers now. Oh, now there's also allies? Oh, okay, well, there's a lot of weird things going on. And terrain? You can get your own fortifications? All right, well, there's a lot of weird stuff there. Oh, now there's these weird PDFs I have to worry about. Oh, now there's the one where you can be bringing your super heavies, and it's almost to the point now where it's just, GW, just stop. Just stop. Bring it back to what it was before. If there's one thing that could bring me back to 40K, is if I saw on the GW page, that, what? All Forge World, no. All the super heavies, no. All the flyers, no. Allies, no. We're just going to be playing with the base book. Flyers are now, they're just vehicles. None of this stupid, you're hitting it on sixes. They're getting the alpha strike because they're flying on. No, these things are starting on. We're playing the good old-fashioned 40K that I remember back as a kid. I might start another army again, but that's not where they're going. They're going, like I said, they're kind of like jumping the shark where they're adding too many elements, and I just can't get into it. And really, one of the things I really do a lot, because I really follow a lot of books on psychology and things like that, where I'm always self-analyzing. I'm always looking at myself and trying to figure out what my priorities are and where I'm going. And I'm always worried now that I always said I wasn't getting out of a hobby, but all of a sudden I just dropped 40K. Would I ever drop fantasy? Looking at this point, I say, like, no, I'd never drop fantasy. I love fantasy. If somebody said right now, if I got a text on my phone saying, hey, do you want to have a game right now? I'll be like, yes, I'll be right there. I do it right away. No problem. But at the same time, I have to self-analyze and wonder, like, well, why are you not buying any more stuff? Aren't you still interested? And that's probably the first step in getting out of a hobby, is like for 40K. If there's a new release, I'm not buying it, unless it's something I absolutely need. I'm not going to get it. So why am I not buying anything for fantasy? And it's one of those things where maybe I'm self-analyzing too much, but I am kind of worried because I really do love this game. And one of the things it competes with, sorry, let's wash that down with more Sambuca, is it competes with War Machine, of course. And I gotta tell you, like, I know that a lot of my viewers don't like War Machine, and probably one of the biggest mistakes I ever made was having War Machine and my Warhammer Fantasy on the same channel. Because it seemed like as soon as I had that War Machine, I'm not getting very many views. My subscribers started to fall, and people just did not really like it. I wish I had two different channels, but whatever. But the thing is I really like War Machine. And at this point here, I would say that I like them equally, right? If there was a War Machine tournament and a fantasy tournament the same day, the only reason why I'd be giving the priority to the fantasy is knowing that I have to give back to you guys, the viewers, right? I have to be making these battle reports, and it's almost like an obligation. But at the same time, like I said, I really like fantasy, and I really like War Machine. But it's just one of these things where, like I said, I'm probably overanalyzing it. I should probably stop talking about it. But, yeah, I mean, right down below, do you enjoy the War Machine battle reports I put up here? Do you agree that I should have put it somewhere else? Or are you just like, if you're a person that likes just fantasy, you're like, well, whatever. I just click fantasy. The War Machine ones I ignore. For a little while there, it looked like there's almost like a battle between my viewers where like all the fantasy guys were downvoting my War Machine battle reports and the War Machine guys are downvoting my fantasy battle reports. Like, that wasn't cool, but whatever. Something else I want to be talking about with viewers here is I should be saying I'm really surprised how far up I went this year. Over a period of, I think it was 4 months, I went up another 1,000 subscribers. And I was like, holy crow. One of the things I always looked ahead at was looking at Once Bitten. Because Once Bitten, come on, stupid computer. whatever. What's been has tons of guys on there, and he's always like he's the grandfather, right? He's that standard you look at. So whenever I start getting a little bit closer, I'd always look at him and like if I went up 100 subscribers, he went up 500, right? There's no catching him. But all of a sudden, I'm starting to like actually catch up, and it's one of these things where I don't know how I'd feel if I actually did catch up with One Spin. It'd probably feel wrong, right? It'd almost feel like, man, how did I beat He-Man in an arm wrestling contest? That's not right. That's not how it's supposed to be. I don't think this actually will happen, but man, if it does, I don't know. I'll have to celebrate somehow. But it's one of those things where I hope that one of the things you guys are appreciating is that in the early years, I was pretty much more just serious, just talking tactics. And I'm trying to keep things a little bit more fun now. And so hopefully you guys enjoy that. Of course, I had my whole faking happiness video. Hope you guys like that one. I knew it was like, I don't know if they're going to like that or if I'm going to be flamed. But either way, I kind of want to take this and also kind of go with some others because I know for myself where I'm kind of looking at like, oh, this is so great. If I keep on working hard and pushing, I might actually catch up with One Spin or something like that. The thing, too, is I get comments from a lot of other people who are starting new channels. And they're saying, well, what should I do? And blah, blah, blah. And the biggest thing that you need to do, man, is just keep on at it. I was looking back at how far I've been doing this. And it's about, I started about in 2010 in January. So I've only been doing it 3 years now, which really isn't very much. But at the same time, it seems one of the biggest things that hurts other people is they just kind of take a break and stop. For my War Machine people, obviously, people like Wargamer Girl. She makes such good videos, but they're so infrequent. And sometimes always we're like, is she done now? Is she not going to post anymore? You get a little bit worried there. But, you see the same thing coming from the 40K and fantasy side too, where people who have really good channels and then all of a sudden they take a break or something and they disappear. For a while there, I was worried that was going to be Luke Davis as well. Glad to see him back. But there's other ones like BunkerTube where I was watching him and had really great things, and then all of a sudden it's gone. It's just done forever. And it's happened with several others too, where they start off, it's starting to look really good. I subscribe, watching the videos, and they stop. Another one could be like Matthew Miller and the Bromance gaming group there too. Like, it's just, I know at some point it must have been a thing where they just decided like, oh, we just want to put a battle report up this week, and then they stop. And it's one of those things where, man, I just would love if we got a lot more people out there that's putting out battle reports all the time, because it's only going to help the community, right? If we're all in there posting these things and having more fun. So, I am also kind of worried for Anthony in the Sustainable Center. Of course, with the baby coming, the very first thing will be like, okay, I'm going to be taking a break. And I hope that break doesn't take too long. Hopefully, during the very beginning there, of course, he's going to take a few weeks off. Probably not do any hobby whatsoever. But I hope he still has plans after that. Because there really is a thing where, if you say, I'll take a month off. I just won't do anything here. And you just never come back to it. So it's one of those things I'm always really worried about. And, yeah, I guess we can move on to something else. I've been rambling on about that long enough. Something else I can talk about is the Brawler Bash. This is still a ways off. They were kind of, throwing around a couple of dates. Sent a few out there looking around May or later or earlier. But I really am looking forward to that. Planning to go again this year. It really is crazy how cheap it is to fly to the States as opposed to here in Canada. If I want to do this trip, going there and back and all the other stuff, I'm looking at around $800, right? Something like that. Which is really across the country and then down a whole bunch as well too, right? So I'm spanning a whole... I guess for people in Europe, I'm guessing the equivalent would say be going from London to Moscow. I don't know how close that is, but looking at the globe, that seems to be about the same. So it really is a far way. And the crazy thing is that if I ever want to go from Fort McMurray down to Edmonton, we're looking like at $600. So one is just going down about 500 kilometers. The other one's going across the country. And it's ridiculous. You know, if I had these prices, I would be loving to be going to tournaments in Ontario and other, like in British Columbia, other provinces here in Canada. But it's just not like that here, right? If you ever want to fly anywhere, I mean, you better have like an arm or a firstborn son you can give because it's so expensive. And of course, the big thing that helps with the Brawler Bash is, I guess I'm making assumptions here. He had me over last time, but last year with Once Bitten had me over at his place. Saves you so much money as well. So with that, I am planning to go again if it's absolutely, if it's at all possible. And all I can say for you guys here now is I know it's early, but if you're in like the eastern states whatsoever, really start trying to plan ahead and go to Brawler Bash. I would love to see this get past the 100 people this year. Listening to Once Bitten, it really sounds like around that area they have a really great tournament system starting to build up, and there's a lot of big ones. I wish that was here. We have some pretty good tournaments here, but a good tournament would be, 40 people. Whereas they're around that 100 mark. So, man, I wish I could be going to all of those. It's not going to happen, unless I win the lottery or something. I won't be flying to all those. I picked Brawler Bash. That's going to be my one, but if you're in that area, just kind of keep your eye on the Bull City Wargaming and all that stuff, Atomic Empire, and when they have the date, just if you can do it for me, try and make it. I'd love to meet you guys. Last time I was there, it was lots of fun going to talk to everyone. So there you have it. Man, the time really flies by. We're already at 45 minutes. You guys better have something painted. I don't know. Maybe down below, or just post down what you have painted, and we'll see who wins. On the topic of painting, one of the things that's really holding me back here is my buddy really screwed me over for painting. Today and yesterday, I could have got so much more painted. These boar boys should be painted. But what he actually gave me was the Game of Thrones DVD set, Season 1 and 2. I know I'm really behind the times. I have not been keeping up with it because another bad thing about where I am up here in Fort McMurray, I got no cable. So that sucks. But he gave them to me to watch, and I'm catching up now, and that stuff is pretty damn addicting. One of the biggest mistakes I made is that whenever I was freaking out about Red Wedding, I went and I checked it out. So now that I watched like 5 minutes of that video, now I'm watching this, and you're like, you're going to die, and you're going to die, and you're going to die. And it kind of really takes away from it. But man, I mean, I can kind of understand why this has been so big for a long while. I probably should have gone into this earlier. Talking about this and some other things, one of the things that's going to be kind of interesting here is listening to some of the other people and what their plans are for the new year, especially with Once Bitten and his Tomb Kings. I'm really looking forward to this one. For myself, I still have my Tomb Kings, and honestly, there's something I probably could use for this tournament as well. They wouldn't be very competitive, but I know for myself, whenever I did Tomb Kings, I really found myself being forced towards the Monster Mash, which is interesting because it seems like whenever I look at anybody else that really is a Tomb King player and they really know their stuff, they don't go Monster Mash. They've gone to Magic, right? They're taking Arcan. They are really going there with all the death magic and all that stuff. So that's that way. And for me, I love the monsters. I like the Sphinxes. And more, it's like, okay, now I'll have 1 Sphinx, 2 Sphinxes, 3 Sphinxes, and a Bone Giant, right? And it's kept on growing and growing and growing. And at that point there, I just found that I was having not very much fun, which is kind of odd because, of course, I also play the High Elves and they're flying guys. So, I don't know, maybe I'm just a cruel bastard. Maybe my High Elves are a thing where I should probably find a way to get away from them. And it's actually one of the things that, man, I almost feel bad about my High Elves. The store owner here will not play Fantasy anymore because of my High Elves. I played my high Elves against him. My flying guys came in there, ripped up his army, and he's like, the hell with Fantasy. Fantasy is stupid. So I really feel bad about that. Now whenever people want to play against me, they'll ask you, what army are you going to play? High Elves No, I'm out. So it's kind of funny too because my high elves are not the popular build, right? The monster mash is not what you see from a regular high elf build. Sure, you might see the two phoenixes, but you'll never see, also the dragon mage and an archmage on what is it, a moon dragon, and also the griffin noble. You don't see that whole package. Normally, all I see is the two phoenixes. So it's weird that a list that people are refusing to play here is just not being used anywhere else. And I think it really is just the fact that they don't have a lot of it. Let's go back to 7th. And back in 7th, I knew that if I faced one dragon, it was going to be a hell of a game because I always have to look at all the possibilities. This will flee here. This will flee here. You could charge this. And it was a hell to deal with. So if you have 5 flying monsters, and if you're an inexperienced gamer that walks up against that, you'll just be torn apart, right? Oh no, I screwed up. So now your dragons are behind me and they're ripping up my bunker. And so I can understand that. It's unfortunate because it also means that my high elf army, which is all painted, ready to go, I can't use for friendly gaming. So I can always pull it out for competitive gaming, but I don't want to take high elves all the time or anything. So it's one of those unfortunate things where you get an army to the point that nobody wants to play against it. But there you have it. So I guess one of the things also to look forward to here is just a few of my other painting projects. I've been working on my third horde of trolls. I'm converting them up because right now I have the horde of trolls like, oh, we all have rocks, and it really looks bad. And so whenever you have these tournaments that grade on presentation, it just kills me, right? Because they look at it like, oh, well, great for you. So I've been working on converting up the other trolls. Once, maybe even this month, I might start going with painting them up. But really looking forward to that. Also want to paint up a bunch of night goblins. Still want to try doing a night goblin theme for us. But one thing that stops me from doing that is the fact that somebody else here, well, Calgary actually, they already do that. All night goblins. So the whole idea of me doing it now would be a little bit weird. Their build's a little bit different. For their build, they take 8 spear chuckas. They take whatever other war machines will fit. But then they take a bunch of small units with fanatics. So it's really a whole attrition type build with, pew 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 from the spear chuckas, move up, release your fanatics, flee, double flee, whatever you need. And it's all about the slow chipping away. That's not my plan. My plan would be like 3 or more hordes of 100 night goblins and march, 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 stabby, 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 and try and kill you. So that's what I'd like to do. Right now, I probably have painted 150 spear goblins, 30 hand weapon shield goblins, and 100 bow goblins. So it's already quite a bit, but that's not enough for doing a whole night goblin army. I know one of the things that some people have been saying that they want to see is they want to see my whole army. And if you want to do that, just go back to the one where I had it laid out all on the table. Something I actually really have to do again is do another big game. We did the game lately here where I had 4,000 points, but to be honest, 4,000 points does not cover my army. And one of the things I'd love to do is that a few years ago, I went over to British Columbia and I played against this guy named Jin Singh. And he also loves orcs and goblins. He also loves demons. And he also has like a very big, large army. Now, I've been out of touch with him for a couple of years. But assuming he still plays, man, could you believe that? Like 10,000 points of orcs versus 10,000 points of orcs? That'd be crazy. So that's the dream. Something that could be possible. Last post I saw from him on Warseer, it looked like he was being a little bit negative on fantasy, so I don't know if he's getting out of it. But I really do miss playing the big games because really in the big games, you miss a level of tactics from the regular games you do. Because let's say a regular game of fantasy, you're going to have your main battle line, you're going to have your chaff, and sure, the chaff wars go on, and then the main line hits, and that's really it. When you get to the 10,000 point mark, you get to waves. So first, I'm going to be setting in this horde of guys. And the horde of guys is almost like chaff. This big horde of guys are only to clear the way so that this next horde of guys can punch through here. It's a whole nother level of tactics. And I mean, it's not doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes it's just like, hey, bring all your models and roll dice and take guys off. And it's just more dice and more guys to take off. But really, if you do it competitively, it can be pretty crazy. But it's still that thing too where you have to kind of like hold it back a bit. I remember one large game I did where I believe it was 8,000 versus 8,000, where he had, oh man, what was it, like 50 ogres in one unit. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to beat them. That's done. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. Something else I could talk about is the whole idea about some of these supplements. Glass one done. And I'm looking, yeah, let's pour that whole bottle in, the whole thing. I've been having I don't know, maybe it's the thing again where I'm an older gamer, but I'm looking for something different now. So when we did the Sieges, I really liked the Siege games. So I played a few of those, really liked them. I'd love to do more, but I'm already looking at some of the other supplements now too. In that same Badlands book, they have the underground battles. Now, I know when that came out, there's a lot like, you know what, this is just stupid. It's a whole thing where monsters get, or not monsters, monstrous units get dangerous terrain. All of your ranges are reduced and stuff like this. But just the whole idea where they give you these different scenarios, and it's also interesting where it's not guaranteed. You're going to have a 6x4 board. You're going to be having something with chunks out of it because this is like a cave system. So where I've really been liking the idea of the actual Siege game. I think I want to try getting in some of these underground games as well. So I'm going to look through those rules, try and get some of those in. And at the same time, I got the Triumph and Treachery. And there is a lot of people here that would love to play Triumph and Treachery. I'm actually, they are playing Triumph and Treachery. They're doing it in campaigns. And guys like Kieran Dunleavy, they're saying, like, if you're ready for Triumph and Treachery, we can do it right now. They love it. They say that you need more than 3 people, so you really have to organize a lot of people. But that's something, too, that coming up here, I really want to try and arrange and get done because I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm looking for something a little bit more now. I mean, it's one of those things, too, where when I did this 4,000 versus 4,000 versus 4,000, people were really asking, why weren't you getting in there? Why weren't you trying to rip their throats out and all the rest of it? And it's like, that's almost not the important thing here, right? I'm looking for a different experience. If I'm going into a game saying, I want to go and this is going to be ultra competitive, all right, I'll do that in a tournament, or I'll know I'll do that playing against somebody else. I'll say, like, what level are we going to be doing this at? And then, okay, let's make this really serious. But at the same time, I'm looking for something different, too. And I'm going to link this in with Ninth in a little bit here. But for this year now, you know, it's almost like right now, if I had the option of playing a regular game or one of these separate games, like either a Siege game or Underground or Triumph and Treachery, I would rather do one of the different ones because I've just been playing the regular ones so often that I'm looking for something new. Oddly, one of the ones I'm not too interested in is the Storm of Magic, and I really think it is because of all the crazy monsters that have been coming out. When I first saw the idea of the Storm of Magic, and there was the super wheel to see what wind is in favor, and the super spells, and all the fulcrums, I was like, yeah, this is really cool. And then they kept on introducing more and more monsters, and it's like, I don't know, man. I mean, I know adding in the monsters and stuff is a pretty big game of it, pretty big components of it, but at the same time, it just felt like they were just trying to sell the monsters and push it, and I don't know. It wasn't really so much for me. So I'm a lot more into either siege battles, underground, or triumph and treachery. And the really great thing is having a guy like Kieran Dunleavy here who loves playing for fluff, loves playing, just having fun, and doing stuff like that. So either way, you're going to be seeing competitive games this year. You're going to be seeing fluff games this year because I'm still the Jekyll and Hyde I used to always be, where sometimes I just want to have fun, and other times I want to rip out your balls, and that's just the way I want to play. So you're going to see both this year. Now we'll get to ninth. I really hope ninth comes this year. And there's a few things that, you know what, at this point here, I don't know what's going to happen. Because for a while there, I was very certain. Talking to the people that I was talking to, they were agreeing with what I thought. Dwarves coming out in February, ninth coming out after. And now, especially if you've been watching some of the other videos, say like on the Sustainable Center and stuff like that, it's, you know what, we might not be getting ninth at all this year. They're going to go and update some other books, and ninth will be like 2014 or something like that. And there could be a couple of reasons for this. One of them, I was talking to Borgnine again and saying, 40K is a mess. If I had the option right now of fixing 40K or fantasy, 40K really needs to fix, it seems to me. So maybe that's what they're going to say is, this is more the year for the next 40K edition and not for the fantasy. But for me, I just want to see a few of the small things fixed for ninth. I want to see Steadfast fixed. I want to see where if you ever disrupt ranks, Steadfast is gone. I want to see the magic phase fixed. So if you ever roll double ones, the magic phase just fails. That's just the way it goes. Did you roll a double six? I don't care. You roll the double one, that fails. And just stuff like that, right? Always getting a lookout, sir, for all these super killer spells. Probably would be a good thing. I understand where sometimes it's your only chance against, say, the Demon Prince is, I'm going to turn you to gold. Did not work? Okay, next turn. I'm going to turn you to gold. So I understand that and where those not getting lookout sirs could still be helpful. But I don't know. Just a few little tweaks. And it's one of those things where maybe being greedy because, like I said, 40K really needs an update. But fantasy, I would love to see just a fresh breath. Something where you get those small little tweaks. We're going to fix what's different there. But at the same time, I'm worried because if they ever go and they... Oh, this is actually interesting. It's the longest time I've made a video on here, more than 60 minutes, so the timer's gone away. So I hope it's still recording. But I'm worried about the magic items because what do I do if they redo ninth and all of a sudden there's no flying cape, right? There's no flying carpet. Or if there's no wizard's hat. If they do this, Super Orc is dead. There is no Super Orc. If they get rid of the wizarding hat, there is no Morco. Those two models I have, put them on the shelf. They're done. So, I've seen this in the past. In 40K, for the Chaos, they used to have demonic weapons. And they have those now. But now it's like, okay, this is a demonic weapon, and if you have a mark, it changes. Well, there used to be 4 demonic weapons. There's like a super sword, a super spear, but the one that I loved was called the Kai gun. It was like this super gun that was just was really powerful. So I made this guy called Fabio Retardo, where I just went to my big box, grabbed stupid stuff, put it together, gave him like a huge gun, and he'd just go around shooting guys. He was awesome. Next book, Kai gun was gone. This model is still sitting up there on my shelf. Even though I sold all my 40K, I kept that one. I kept my Fabio Retardo. I kept the Space Marine Cockton that I made to be me, Brian. Almost gave you my last name. That was going to be dangerous. And I also kept this biker guy as well. Just because, these are guys that I really loved during 40K, so I kept them, and it'd be the same thing, right? If this ever happened to the Flying Carpet, to the Wizarding Hat, it's almost like this, the shelf, or the Hall of Fame, there's a good one for it. It almost makes you think sometimes, too, that maybe I can make a piece of terrain around this. When I used to be in one club called the War Room, they had this one piece of terrain that was almost like in Greece, with all the columns, and they had the little characters on top. So almost make me think that I should take these characters, make these columns, and just like spray them, either look like stone or gold or silver or bronze, and have them on top. It'll be like my Hall of Fame piece. But oh man, if I had to do that with Super Orc, I would feel sorry because I love that guy. It actually is amazing to me how little people use the flying carpet, because with this system here, we have these, pages and pages of magic items. It always seems that people just go with what's the very best. And you know what? From a tournament aspect, that's the right thing to do. But from the same time as well, man, I mean, how can you not go and have fun with these items? Like the Mask of E, right? Just having some guy that, like, I'm charging you and I have terror. Ah! So just having lots of fun with this. And with that, this flying carpet and the wizarding hat were so unique. An item that gives terror, okay, whatever. An item that makes you fly or makes you a level 2 wizard that may have stupidity, that's crazy. But really, apart from myself, I haven't been seeing anybody do this whatsoever. So, with that in mind, if you're looking at a list of items and nobody uses them except for Malorian, it's going to go away. So, that makes me sad. By the way, if you're wondering how much longer this will take, I have this much Sambuca, and once this much is done, there's bedtime. I gotta work tomorrow. So, as far as 9th goes, I really hope it does come. But at the same time, I hope it doesn't, just because I love this edition, I love the items, and I love to keep going with it. Probably the next thing to talk about here is just the idea of what armies I'm really interested in. And really the big ones right now is, of course, Dwarves are my go-to army. Looking forward to them being redone in February. I'm really wondering, well, okay, who knows? I mean, that's what they were planned for, but I'm really interested in what they're going to do with them. I've seen the stuff, like there's a squadron of the gyrocopters and stuff like that, but I hope they don't really change them. I love the fact that I don't need a lot of monstrous stuff to be competitive. I can bring my case, and it has 5,000 points, and I'm good to go. But if they change it so that all of a sudden, the infantry are garbage, and you really need to have, like, these squadrons of gyrocopters, or who knows what, right? Like dwarves on mechanical bears, who knows, right? That'd be unfortunate, because all of a sudden then you can't fit them all in there. And I see it already with the guys who are playing like Warriors of Chaos. They'll come to play, and they'll have like a toolbox. And in this toolbox, they'll have all the chariots, the chimeras, the demon prince, and it's really just one build and 2,000 points. Whereas my thing, like I said, in a GW double case, I have 5,000 points because it all fits in there. So we'll see what they do with them. For a while there, I was already saying I was going to take Dwarves to Brawler Bash. At this point, I really have to say, let's wait and see. With that, too, I might as well comment, going back to me being before, where I was saying, like, what would happen if I got out of Fantasy? And I know last time I went to Brawler Bash, I converted up a Shaman that actually had the Fencer Blades. I left it with Once Bitten. I think he gave it out as a prize at his next tournament, but I was almost wondering, if I got out of the whole Fantasy game, how cool it would be, like, to go down for Brawler Bash, bring all my orcs, and say, like, all right, here you go, Once Bitten. You have 10,000, or to be serious, it's probably like 12,000 points of orcs. There you go. See ya. I'm going to Canada. Just wondering, what would be a Once Bitten list for orcs and goblins, right? If he had all of the options I had, what would be his list? Or same thing, say, for Anthony in the Sustainable Center. If I went over there and said, guess what? You now have 12,000 points of orcs. Which way would he take it? So, and that's the thing, too, that when I got out of 40K, I didn't really have very much, and I just sold it. Got new stuff, whatever, got some terrain things. But for Fantasy, I almost feel like if I ever was to get out of it, I just give some of it away, just because I really like seeing the community being what it is. For 40K, there is a lot more than there is for fantasy, so you have to support it more. But it's almost it's probably a thing too, just where I love fantasy so much. Where if I was to ever leave it, I'd have to give it to somebody else just so I could watch the pod reports on YouTube. But like I said, this isn't something that's probably going to happen. Um, Probably the only way I could ever quit fantasy is if they try doing the fantasy what they did to 40K. Let's say in next year they bring out ninth, and they say, guess what? We're going to bring out allies. So now you can go and you can ally your army with any other army you want. And guys are like, okay, maybe I'll ally with the Bretonians and I'll take some trebuchets. Or maybe I'll ally with the Orcs and Goblins. I'll take a bunch of cheap war machines and some guys with fanatics. Or whatever, right? So you already have that's really making these weird loopholes. And then they say, like, oh, and by the way, in fantasy, you can now take fortifications. So if you really want to have this Tower of Blood, yeah, it's right there. You could put this a warding well, right there in the middle of your lines, and you're good to go. You can also use Forge World all you want. Yeah, like there's this new Orc monster that's crazy, and you might as well buy him from Forge World because he's amazing. Go ahead and take him. And we have these PDFs, and go ahead. And by the way, we also have these super heavies. So if you ever want to take like this gigantic Squigoth that you can put in your Orc and Goblin army, and they'll kill everything, or like the Ultra Mega Dragon, and it'll kill everything. There you go. That's probably the only way I can see me getting out of fantasy, because really, that's what it took to get me out of 40K. So there we have that. Geez, yeah, I don't even know what time we're at for this now, but probably the next thing I want to talk about is just the whole idea of bringing up your own community. Because I know whenever you're in a game, the big worry is I've spent hundreds or thousands of dollars on this game, and there's nobody to play against. So a good example for that for me is there was a card game called Wildstorm. This one would have a lot of characters in it, superheroes from the like the Wildcats and stuff like that. And it was a card game we could play against others. And I really was into this game, spent hundreds of dollars, but all of a sudden it just died. And there was no one to play against, so it was a waste. And I bring this up because I hear this from other people too. They say, you know what? The community is dying around here. It's all 40K. It's all War Machine. I'd love to do fantasy, but I can't. And what they do then is basically nothing. They're just like, well, I'll play with my few little friends and that's it. But really, you can't do that. If you really want to have a hobby survive, you really have to support it. And say, like, from here, like I said, up here, they're really big into Magic, and they're really big into 40K, and there's the War Machine as well. But I love fantasy. So what I do is whenever I can, I try and encourage fantasy. Who wants to have a fantasy game? Hey, I know you have a fantasy army. Let's play a game. You just have to keep on encouraging it, right? Running the month-long tournaments and stuff like that. All you can do is encourage. Because really, it is a sea of advancing other systems, because there's always new games. Right now, like up here, they're like, hey, who wants to play Pathfinder? Pathfinder is like a new version of Dungeons and Dragons. And whereas you can say, like, oh, well, all games can live together, where some people are playing Pathfinder, that means they're not playing War Machine, they're not playing fantasy, they're not playing your stuff. And one of the things I see very often is the people saying that I can't get games in because the area here is dead. Well, what you need to do is actually go out there and, first of all, if you can't do anything else, set up a gaming group. Say for my when I'm back home, I'll say tonight is War Machine night. You guys come over, play War Machine. Or I'll just post up on Facebook and say, hey, who wants to do a fantasy game today? You? Great. I'll meet you at this time here. And you really have to be proactive to keep that going. If you really have a healthy community, that's probably because somebody else is already doing that. right here now, I'm actually in a very awkward position because here in Edmonton, well, not here, down south, there is a convention called May Day. And for the last 5 years, I've been running a doubles 40K tournament there that really helps fundraise money for them and does a tournament for 40K. This year here, there is going to be a tournament called GrotzCon, which has been going on for a while too, and it's War Machine. And I would love to go to War Machine, but at the same time, I know right here there is not a lot of 40K tournaments. And if I don't go and run this tournament at May Day, and if I go to GrotzCon to play instead, these guys just won't have any tournaments. Sorry, sucks to be you. But I can't do that because it seems like there has to be a point where you start giving back. You say, instead of me playing, I'm going to run this tournament, and I'm going to do this instead. So there you have that. But that's just something you can be doing in your area. I know an area like that that's a real issue is, say, for once our sustainable center. Because not only is he dealing with a baby, but he's dealing with his local club shutting down. And right now it's only being held together by a group of guys playing in their basement or whatever. So, you really have to be proactive when you're in a situation like that, because it's not just a thing like, okay, every first Saturday of every month, come over to my place and we'll play games. It has to be a thing where, every couple of months, we're going to have a tournament and we're going to do this here. Because one of the dangerous things is that when a community shatters into different gaming groups, like I'm playing in the basement here, I'm playing in the basement here, I'm playing with my sister over here, all of a sudden they're segmented. And not only do you have the negatives where you're not learning from each other and you can get really stale and lose interest, you just don't really have those big things that keeps you in the hobby. So you're like, oh, okay, well, I've been playing my brother at 40K for 5 years, so I'm done with that, and I'm going to play Magic now because I need something new. So you really need to have that going. So that's that there. Oh, this Sambuca tastes so good. It's one of the problems here. I want to talk to you, but I want to drink this Sambuca too. So, probably one of the other things you have to look at here too is myself as a tournament organizer, where it's going to be getting, I'm at the point now where it's a lot more of a hassle. Actually, no, I won't talk about this here. I think I'm going to talk about something a little bit more about the meta going forward. So right now we're in a position going into 2009 where we're in an interesting meta environment. Pretty much right now all of the armies are fairly well balanced. I really like it. There's a few ones that are a little bit weaker, but the one trump card is the Demon Prince. It seems to me that there's one thing that's really out of place, it's the Demon Prince. So there's a lot of different armies that are asking, how can I deal with this? And how can I deal with this in the future? And one of the things I'm wondering, if this is what they're going to be building into Dwarves. Because right now, Dwarves is one of those core shooty armies that is really holding the monsters at bay. And it's one of these things where, as somebody who is not a Demon Prince player, you don't appreciate, right? Let's say you're an Empire player. You're just like, man, it's all up to me and my cannons. If I don't pull off this Council of Light, the Demon Princes are going to crush everything. But really, Dwarves are one of these other armies too. They're really going to be getting in there, and they're changing the meta. Because, first of all, as Dwarf players, you know that 5-point flaming rune in our War Machines? Leave that at home, because you never know when you'll have a Demon Prince that's immune to flaming attacks. But it's our grudge throwers and cannons and organ guns that really are the real threat to Demon Princes. Sure, Empire can have their cannons, but we can have cannons plus, and we're a lot more efficient. The Empire can have the Light Council, but it can be shut down. Whereas dwarves are more the opposite. We don't depend on magic. We just shut the hell down of your magic. So whereas the Demon Prince will go up and purple sun your ass, whereas like I have 12 of the spell dice. Done. So dwarves right now are a real balancing factor. And going to February, this could really lead to a really important and critical shift. Because if we really lose some of the power of our war machines, let's say if all of a sudden for the cannons get more expensive, we lose the Master Rune of Accuracy in our Grudge Thor, the Organ Gun doesn't automatically hit anymore. If that happens, Demon Princes get that much better. So it's something we really have to worry about. And I really think that people are underestimating how important this dwarf release really is. And there's also the rune system. I mean, something else the dwarf players can do is they have a master rune that says whatever strength your attack is, it's only 5 now. I'm going to have a 1+ rerollable save and a 4+ ward. So no matter what you are, I'm going to have a 3+ rerollable save and a 4+ ward. And I'll be steadfast or stubborn, so screw you, Demon Prince. So they really are playing a very big part on shutting down Death Stars and super killy characters. And really, if they redo the dwarves and screw up their war machine, screw up their runes, we could really see like an opening of the gates of a lot of other stuff coming out. I really do wish. Actually, I watched not a podcast, a YouTube coverage lately. Let's have some more Sambuca first. Where they were talking about some of the armies that aren't very normally seen. And for me, I'm always thinking about Bretonnians and Wood Elves. And to them, one of their ones was dwarves. Like, dwarves. You never see those dwarves. Let's just get rid of them, right? I can see how going to 9th, they won't get a new book at all. We'll just get rid of the dwarves. Oh, man. That would be horrendous. They are so key to one of the main races and also controlling the meta. So I really hope they don't do that. I mean, really, if you look at the meta and Bretonnians did not exist, would your game change? Not really. If you looked at the meta and Wood Elves just did not exist, would it change? No, not really. If dwarves did not exist, would it change the meta? Big time. Very big time. So, we'll see what they do. You know, it's one of these things where in 2014 is such a big thing where what are they going to do with the possible 9th edition? And what are they going to be doing with the dwarves and any other army books they do as well? So we'll see what they do. At this point here, I've had half a bottle of my Sambuca and Sambucisode. So if I'm rambling on, blame the Sambuca. Now I have to make the choice. Am I going to drink all the rest and this is the end of the podcast until I'm done talking, or do I save some? Let's find out. Okay, for our closing thoughts. Closing thoughts from Malorian. 2013, great year. Loved the year. I had so much fun with War Machine and Fantasy, and really more Fantasy than anything else. War Machine has always been very good to me, but Fantasy this year has been great. One of the things I was going to do was going to go back and do a battle report with one of my 7th ed edition pictures. Because through Photo Bucket, I have a whole bunch of pictures where I did written battle reports, but no YouTube one. So I thought, like, should I convert these and I'll actually make a YouTube battle report? But I looked back and I thought, who's going to care? And you know what? I like 8th so much better. This is so much better than what it used to be. I miss some of the games you could play with a movement phase where really it seems to me if you took away the ability to combat reform and the ability to redirect your charge. Man, that would make such a difference, because used to be that if I fled, you were dedicated. If you charged this unit, you were in trouble, because if they fled, you're facing this way and you're going to be flanked. And there was also a thing too where if you're flanked, oh, if you're steadfast, I don't care. You're stuck facing that way. Right now, of course, the way it is, if you're flanked, yay, I'm steadfast. Passed my combat reform. Now I'm going to face you and kill you. So, I almost miss those things from before, but even with that, I am having so much fun with 8th. And I hope you guys are too. And really, with that, I think that's the end of the Sambucisode. So with this, you guys have your homework. I need you guys to tell me what armies you guys think I should use for the All the Basement tournament. I'd still love to hear what you guys think about my War Machine battle reports, whether you don't care or you actually wish you went to a new channel. And also, go check out that it's written my arm, Rothend Studios. They did such great work on my logo, just updating it and making it look awesome. And the final thing there, just take part in my new campaign here. The first month here is going to be Skaven, so either play with Skaven or play against Skaven. Let me know about it, and it's going to be lots of fun. So thanks for watching. Also post down what you painted during this, and we'll catch you later. Bye.